Yes, Ro, stakes are very high, so high that Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had campaigned for AK Party candidate Binali Yildirim for months. So let's take a closer look at why these elections are important and what led to the rerun.
There's a saying in Turkey, whoever wins Istanbul wins Turkey. That is how important this election is. Ruling Istanbul brings power, both political and economic. The city, with a population of over 15 million people, has a budget of approximately $4 billion. This accounts for about a third of the country's economic output. On March 31st, during the local elections, Ekrem İmamoğlu, Turkey's main opposition Republican People's Party CHP candidate, won the Istanbul mayoral election with a narrow margin of 13,000 votes. He was running against AK Party candidate Binali Yildirim. Following the March elections, AK Party officials and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan objected to the results, citing voting irregularities that affected the outcome. Last month, Turkey's High Election Board made a controversial decision and annulled the Istanbul mayoral elections. The candidates disagree on the justification of the annulment.
We say there was no ground for the unfair and illegal intervention in the election held on March 31. This is part of our rhetoric for this campaign. We will continue to say this because we know that we are at a crossroad in terms of democracy.
AK Party candidate Yildirim insists they did not opt for a rerun either.
We did not want this to happen. I still say that if Republican People's Party did not resist to a complete recount, this election wouldn't be renewed today.
İmamoğlu is a rising star for the CHP, who previously served as mayor of Beylikdüzü, one of Istanbul's districts. While AK Party's Yildirim has held high-level positions in Turkey, including Prime Minister and Parliament Speaker.
When people in Istanbul, when they look at İmamoğlu, he represents something fresh. He looks young, he looks dynamic, and he offers hope for the future. On the other side, a lot of people are going to vote for Yildirim for stability, for continuity, because there is this fear on the AK Party side amongst their voters of change, or what will happen if somebody else takes over. So I think we're going to have this really contrast between hope and fear.
Many analysts say the defeat in Istanbul was perceived as a major blow to Erdogan. He had campaigned intensely in the run-up to the March elections, with daily rallies across Turkey, stating that the election was a matter of survival for Turkey. Turkey's economy will likely once again play a role in voters' decision-making process. The Turkish lira lost about a third of its value last year, and Turks are feeling the pain. The results will also depend on key Kurdish voters, who make up about 15% of eligible voters in Istanbul.
One other key factor is going to be whether or not those who did not show up and vote during the March elections actually do show up this time, and especially many AK Party voters had not voted in March, so it could be very significant if they do show up this time. Rowie?
So I guess the question is, who benefits from a high turnout, and are we expecting one? What is the atmosphere there like?
Well, Rowie, the atmosphere is actually very, very tense right now, not just in Istanbul, but in Turkey as a whole. Everyone is just locked to the Istanbul elections right now because it carries just so much significance. And it's not just about Istanbul, it's about democracy in Turkey, it's about the future of Turkey. And we're expecting a very high turnout indeed. Many have actually canceled holiday plans to stay here and vote. And there are thousands who had already left and are returning to Istanbul just to vote. Rowie?